Hey everybody, Tuesday with Tanya in Cranston today, right on Atwood Ave, 535 Atwood Ave, in this beautiful office that I drive by all the time and didn't realize it. Very nice here with Katie today. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Steve as well, appreciate it. We're at Prestige Wellness and Co-Parenting Counseling, again, right on 535 Atwood Ave. Check out the link, it's on the other post that I put from before. And it is a discussion today on parent alienation, plus the more elaborate way to say it, parent alienation, awareness, and intervention. I hope I got that right. I hope I got that right. I'm new to the whole topic. And you know, I always thought it was, you know, like, hey, this parent pinned the kid against the other parent. And I didn't, you know, I've seen a lot of that over the years with coworkers or with, you know, acquaintances or anybody. You just go through life meeting people that have one parent and the other parent, and there's feuding and kids get involved, obviously. I never thought to use the word alienation. I never, you know, but I guess that's the more proper term, right? So have the experts here with me. It's the more proper term. So yeah, what do you think? Is this pretty prevalent in Rhode Island, in the United States? I think that the number's pretty high, right? So
yeah,
pretty,
I mean, I think it's,
and,
again, we're promoting awareness because it's becoming more of a thing as, you know, couples get divorced and feud with each other. They stay in court longer than they should. You know, I always tell people family court takes away your power. It does not give you control. It gives you a sense of control, but it really takes it away. And parental alienation is a thing. A lot of the courts right now aren't using that word, but it's becoming more and more common.
Right. And there's something with something with the law you were saying earlier with
So I am the Rhode Island chapter president for C.A.G.S, Parental Alienation Support and Intervention, which is a national organization. It was founded by Joan Cloth-Zenard in Connecticut, and she is a licensed clinical mental health professional. Our focus as an organization has been to work with the state legislature, the Senate, and the House, our state reps, to try to do something to change the laws so the courts start to recognize parental alienation as an actual, as something that may be happening in the family dynamics that's affecting the children, and affecting the children to the point where it's psychological abuse, where the child has symptom displays of anger, of failing grades, of having difficulty creating relationships, all the symptoms that you'd see in a child who's being abused, but this is emotional abuse, psychological abuse. So our focus as an organization is to work with the legislature to change the laws, some family court reform, to have the courts recognize that parental alienation may exist, and then create orders so the child and the family can get the proper assessment to recognize it, to better help the child. And that's where our experts like Katie, Aubin, can come in and kind of close that loop and help identify the effects of it, and help us change the laws and help our children, keep them from being psychologically and emotionally abused.
Right. Thank you. But the current way the court might look at it is, oh yeah, the parents don't get along, or like, do you feel that the judges have an eye for this parent alienation thing, and they just maybe, I don't want to say can't do anything about it, but do you think that, what do you think the judge or the courts, do you think they kind of know what's what and kind of can get a read on the person, but because there's nothing written in the law, they can't? I don't know. You know what I'm trying to get at? I mean, however you want to answer that.
Well, I'll tell you, the courts don't recognize the term parental alienation. And that's what parental alienation is really a category of behaviors that the child, that the parents are doing to a targeted parent. They're denying access to, denying the child access to the other parent. They're just by making disparaging remarks to the child about the other parent, and then they're creating fear in the child, so the child doesn't want to go to the other targeted parent. So the courts don't recognize parental alienation per se as a clinical term, and they attribute all of this to some other things. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to change the law so the court recognize parental alienation in the categories that make up parental alienation, behaviors that a parent may be doing affecting the child. So we need to change, have some family court reform where the laws are in place where the court has to recognize it as a possibility.
Right, thank you.
And from the clinical perspective, you know, I do think the courts are becoming more and more aware of the term parental alienation. I read court orders on a daily basis, and a lot of lawyers, per se, are using the term parental alienation, possible parental alienation, and exhibiting the kind of bulleting out the other parent's behavior to provide evidence to support parental alienation is happening. And, you know, guardian ad litems are also using this term. They're also using the term reunification therapy. That's another big thing that's kind of coming to fruition now. Courts are mandating reunification therapy. They're also mandating co-parenting therapy, which the two go hand in hand, and they can work well together. And so I do think it's becoming more aware. I would say in the past couple of years in Rhode Island, I've become a lot more busier with reunification. I've been really busy with co-parenting, even pre-COVID for the last 10 years, but reunification is coming up. So I think the courts are aware. It's just, again, defining that term and providing the evidence for it.
And then, so reunification meaning just meaning, not to sound dumb, but meaning the child and the parent to be reunified.
Yes, so the alienated parent and the child to be reunified.
Right, I thought so. I just wanted to make sure that was clear to myself and the viewers. And then you had mentioned something, the word light. You said some light word before that, I thought. I didn't catch what you said. Something before reunify. You said something, there's another thing that the courts, I forget how you worded it. Maybe I just didn't hear you.
Becoming aware.
Yeah, I forget what you said. I'm sorry.
Bringing it, I think.
Bringing it to light.
Said something I think the lawyers are using parental alienation in court orders right now and providing evidence to support that alienation is happening.
Okay.
So I think it is bringing it to light to the judges, especially in Rhode Island. And they're more apt to say, to court order reunification therapy than before where it was kind of loosey-goosey and say, well, you should do this. Yeah. Now a lot of court orders, you don't have an option. The other parent has to bring the child to reunification therapy.
And how do you, or same for Steve, how do you guys think so now the lawyer brings us forward, they recommend this reunification therapy and this and that. How do you think the judge takes that? Does the judge care, not care? Does the judge gloss over it? And because I look at legal cases, whether it's kids involved or not, as it becomes very nuts and bolts. They don't care about the details. They don't care who cheated. They don't care kids misbehaving or got expelled from school. Like, they don't care about the details. They just want to, like, get the case solved and move on to the next case. So you think there's some judges that are more nuts and bolts and kind of, I hate to, lack of a better way to put it, that kind of don't care about this parental alienation thing, where they figure like, all right, well, whatever, that's for them to sort out. You know, they just have to do this, and this, the father has to do this, the mother has to do this. They don't care about the parental alienation part. Do you think that that's going on?
Yes, I think there are some judges that do not believe in parental alienation 100%. Yeah. There are other judges that are taking it a lot more seriously now. And when those court orders come in, I know specifically what judge I'm dealing with, so it's a lot easier. Also, the lawyers involved, I have a good working relationship with lawyers and guardian ad litems and judges.
That word you said?
Guardian ad litems.
Yeah, that's what you said before that I was trying to figure out. Yeah, how do you say that again?
Guardian ad litems. It's basically a lawyer for the child.
Ooh, okay.
So you have,
I learned that. Okay,
in
so
divorce,
that means,
you have the mom and dad, or two moms or two dads, and you have the lawyers for each side. Okay. The guardian ad litem is the child's lawyer. Wow. So they're in the best interest of the child. Right. And so I have a good working relationship with them, because the guardian ad litem seem to understand a little bit more of the mental health piece to this and the human behavior piece for the co-parents and for the children involved. So it's
never heard of that. I never knew that. Thank you. That's interesting.
I'd like to add, I would agree with Katie that the courts, there's more awareness, and that's part of what our organization is doing is to raise the awareness of parental alienation. And we're doing that with the help of experts like Katie. The court is still lagging behind. There are no laws in the state that force the courts to recognize it. The last session, there were a couple of attorneys who were also in the Senate who did propose some bills to change the law so the courts have to recognize it. So individually, there may be courts that are saying, yeah, this might be happening. What can I do about it? But if the court isn't driven by law, evidence, and facts, they're not inclined to say, okay, I need to consider this. So, like I said, the last session in the Senate, there were bills put in place to pass. They have to recognize it, and they were shot down by the Senate members, by the complete body of the Senate members. That's what we have to change. We have to raise awareness within the politicians who are writing the legislation, who are writing the laws, and get them passed. So the court is forced to recognize parental alienation or these behaviors that are affecting the children.
Right, right. And that would also maybe help, like I said, my theory is some of these judges may just gloss over this and stick to the nuts and bolts. But if you have more, so what you guys are basically, I'm hoping you're saying is by putting it into legislature, put it into laws, then that from there will have to make that judge pay attention to this topic and not just gloss over it and not just stick to nuts and bolts. Am I saying that right?
It'll be the next extension of raising awareness for what's happening to our children.
Right, right. Okay, sounds good. And again, your organization, what was the title of it again?
Is Parental Alienation Support and Intervention.
And how can people reach you or reach that?
They can reach me through this podcast.
Do you give out an email? Or no? Do you give out a phone number or an email? Of yours, personal. I mean, whatever. It's up to you if you want to give something out or... Either way.
You can reach me on my email at scgouin@yahoo.com. We have a small group of members, several other members, who are talking to their representatives in their districts to continue raising awareness of what's happening with parental alienation in the family court system and how it's affecting the children. So I'm not doing this all alone. I don't want to do it alone. We have great support and a small team. We have experts like Katie on the team as well, with some attorneys who are senators who are attempting to write the bills to force the court to recognize it and raise parental alienation awareness.
All right, awesome, thank you. And don't forget, everybody, I'll let you know where I'm going to be next week. And also, we have a raffle to Fu Ming, awesome Chinese place right over in West Warwick. And so Katie Aubin, again, you're licensed, how do you say the exact title? I know you have a C.A.G.S. I don't know the exact title.
Licensed mental health clinician in the state of Rhode Island.
All right, awesome. And she's located right on 535 Atwood Ave. I'm not far from Cucina Rustica, like walking distance from there. I'm actually due to go back there. So it's funny, we're a couple doors down. And again, it's called Prestige Wellness and Co-Parenting Counseling, right on 535 Atwood Ave in Cranston. And yeah, so basically I guess I think of these things, you meet people over the years that you work with, and maybe guys drop a comment saying you're watching or say hi, whether it's now or on a replay. And, I don't know anyone that I'm super close to that's going through this, but, you hear people at work or you hear people through people. So let's say one of my good friends, and then it's let's say her sister-in-law or something like that. I'm just making an example of this whole parental alienation, but I just never termed it as that. Like I said, I would always say, oh, it's one parent going against the other, or the kid siding with one parent because the other parent made it that way. But so what's your take on this? I was going to ask you about this. You have, parents that feud, start drama amongst each other, whether it involves that they're with a new person, dating a new person, whether it doesn't involve that at all, whether it involves whatever, drugs, gambling, they have their own issues amongst each other. They are separated. The kid becomes a pawn. I guess that's the way to use it. But now, when that same kid is at the mom's house, there's a good relationship there. When the kid's at the father's house, there's a good relationship. It's just the parents are starting a problem and trying to drag the kids into it. How does the court look at that? Or, I know it's a kind of open thing, but what do you guys think on that? Like, meaning you can be good parents separate, but the parents are still feuding at the top. Like, there's always that struggle, but the kids are, I don't want to say not affected, maybe they're indirectly affected. What's your take on some of that?
Well,
I feel like I see that a lot.
And this isn't from a clinical perspective at all. It's from behavior, personal experiences, and some of the work that I've done. But parents can get along. It's when one parent weaponizes the child against the other parent. That's where it really affects the child specifically. You know, within the family dynamics and unit, I guess we're always going to have some kind of conflict, but in the family court system, it's elevated and the child become a weapon for one parent against the other. And that's part of parental alienation. Typically, when two parents are getting along and they can co-parent effectively, then the default is in the court system, each parent gets 50-50 time with the child, and the attorneys representing each client defaults to that, and they fight about the furniture and not the child. Which let them fight about the furniture. Right. And that's typical.
Thank you.
So the attorneys, come together and collaborate and agree that both parents will be part of the child's life. And that's in the best interest of the child. That doesn't happen when the child becomes weaponized, one parent against the other.
So what's your take on that?
And I agree with that. And it comes down to, a lot of lawyers are, again, understanding parental alienation, but it's also, we have to understand the child psychology behind this. Sometimes a child, say as a toddler, doesn't want to go to the other parent's house. That parent, again, if they're fighting and if they're still in court, tension's high, it's like a fishing expedition. Well, my 3-year-old doesn't want to go to mom or dad's house, and now we're thinking that the child is scared or unsafe at mom or dad's house. Sometimes it has nothing to do with that piece. It's just the transition itself. Take it as they get older. I called toddler terrorists, and I called teenage and tween terrorists. Different house, different rules.
That too. That's an issue. That's a problem.
It's a huge problem.
Yes.
Again, with cell phones and smartphones now, it is huge, and I do believe it is a good consequence if your teenager or child is failing math in school. Maybe they don't get their phone until all their schoolwork is done.
Right.
But if you go to mom or dad's and they say, you can have your phone, you can have social media, you can talk to your friends anytime you want. As a child, what home do you think that child's going to want to go to?
Right.
So sometimes it's just as simple as that. So then the other parent, then the child starts to complain about the other parent. They don't like their rules, they're too strict. So it kind of becomes a snowball effect. So sometimes it is just that, different house, different rules. And you kind of have to, co-parents, I advocate for to say, okay, well, different house, you go to mom's, you have these rules, you go to dad, you have these rules. You don't have to like it, and the other parent does not have to agree to it. But they still need to say, you have to go. So sometimes it's just as simple as that. Other times people take it to the nth degree.
Right.
So, it's hard, and child psychology and human behavior is very difficult.
Right.
So we're hoping people, figure it out as the case goes along, or sometimes it works itself out.
Right.
As kids get older.
Right, it's true, and that is true with different house, different rules, and just even that happens sometimes within the house. So even for couples that are married still, or even if they're just couples that are not married but they are living together, they're in a relationship still, they have a few kids together, and within the house, one parent says this and one says that. It's just it's not.
Intact families do it all the time.
It's crazy, and I mean I know it can't be perfect, but it would be nice if there could be some middle ground or something, because it's true. Then the kid's gonna favor one parent over the other, or I know it's a lot. I thought of something regarding this whole still with this gray area thing. Lost my train of thought. Where the kid. All right. So the parents. All right. So you have two feuding parents. Now they're at the point they're making up lies, like about either the kid, mind you. So the dad has the child. Everything's fine. Then whatever. The next day they're with the mom. Everything's fine separately. But at the top, the two parents are still feuding, going to court, saying, he did this, she did that, and it's a lie. Not even true. Now you got to prove that. We're maybe not even involved in the kid, or sometimes it is, but it's a lie. But when each child, the parent is on their own with each of those parents, there's no issues. What do you take of those situations? I've seen that too, where they're legit making up a lie. Sometimes they're very bad lie, violent, sexual, but it's not even true.
That is.
What do you
that
think of that?
Is
not involving always the kid.
Under the umbrella of parental alienation, that is one of the behaviors where one parent will target the other parent and make up false allegations, false accusations against the other parent to create fear in the child, to create fear the child doesn't want to go, won't want to go to the other parent because they've created this allegation that the targeted parent isn't safe, or you don't want to go, whatever. But that's one of the behaviors, and that's what we need to recognize and raise the awareness that that possibility exists, and the court has to start to recognize that is parental alienation and a destructive and very emotionally harmful behavior for the child.
Right, but thank you. And then how do you get around that though? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, how do you, what's the best strategy to get out? Like, if anyone was watching who's maybe having their ex making up lies about them, like, what's your best advice for those people?
Well, I always tell people, again, family court keeps you on a consistent fishing expedition to provide evidence to defend yourself in court. People think apps like OFW, Our Family Wizard, App Close, these co-parenting apps, you write something in the app, it's fact. That's not true. It's the same as texting. I do believe the apps are more secure. You can't alter them as much. If you're not using an app, and if you're dealing with this, I would only communicate with the other co-parent through email. I don't trust text messages. I don't accept screenshots of texts for my co-parenting or reunification people. If they are texting each other, they have to show me a full screenshot of the entire conversation, and both parties have to send me the same dates and times of that screen recording, not screenshots. But again, it's my job as a reunification co-parenting counselor or a guardian ad litem's job to figure out if that lie is true. So take, for instance, a simple example of the child does not want to come to reunification therapy because they left school early unwell. Okay, that might be the case, so we reschedule, they come in the next week, and I just simply say, oh, I'm so sorry you weren't feeling well, I heard you left school early. Oh, no, I was just really tired because it was field day all day. So I document that. I don't necessarily need to tell the other parent, but again, I document that and say, they missed reunification therapy because they were supposedly sick and missed school, which happens. Yeah. But then when the child comes in to see me, I was just super tired from field day, which I get. Yeah. But that doesn't mean you should miss reunification therapy. So that to me is resistant on the parent and a lie. So I provide that to the courts for the lawyers to, again, I provide evidence. I don't prove parental alienation. I provide evidence so that the lawyers can do their job in court.
Evidence showing the behaviors.
Yes.
Behaviors that quite possibly could be parental alienation, and back to the courts where they have to be forced to recognize. Family court reform, raising awareness that it may exist. So it's important. If we don't recognize it and say there's a possibility here, then we're completely dismissing the correct avenue to take to treat the situation. If parental alienation, if it isn't the situation, then we have the assessments. Clinical people have the assessments and the tools to treat whatever it is. But if it's parental alienation, we have to recognize it, be aware of it, and then we put those tools and assessments in place and say, this is what's happening.
Right. Thank you. And then narcissism. I don't want to get too in the weeds with this, but I feel like, just my own opinion of the word, I think there is such thing as being a narcissist, whether you're a man or a woman. But I really believe in my heart the word is overused. I think I could look up the definition of a narcissist. You see, let's say seven different traits. I know that I might not have the right number, but a person might fit 3 of them. So I guess I could ask your clinical opinion. Does that make you a narcissist if you fit 3 out of 7? Or what's your take on narcissism? Do you think what I'm saying is right? Do you disagree? Yeah. It's okay if you disagree. Is it overused, that word, or what do you think?
I think it's very, very overused.
Yeah.
I don't even use the term or diagnose anybody with it because I think every single person on the planet can have narcissistic traits.
I read about that. It's so funny you say that.
Yeah.
Yes, even if you have just one trait.
Yeah.
That a lot
Even
of us
the
have.
best.
Yeah, even like a really even keel, quiet person could have even one narcissistic trait.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
so I
again, we
didn't
all.
mean to interrupt.
No, that's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Totally fine.
Yeah.
And again,
Yeah.
I think it's way overused. I think
Yeah.
you can look at your relationship and say, I was dating or I was married to a narcissist.
Right.
And
I hear that all the time.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
again, I think it's a cop out, to be
Okay.
quite frank. But then again, just because you and your husband or wife got a divorce doesn't make that person a bad parent.
Right.
So just because you don't get along with your ex-wife or ex-husband doesn't mean that they're a bad mother or father anymore.
Mm.
Sometimes a divorce makes parents better because they have to parent alone and they become better parents for it.
Right.
So I do believe the term narcissism is way overused. I don't like it. Like I said, I don't diagnose anybody with it because again, everybody can have those traits, especially at different times in their life. We could say, teenagers are narcissistic. They're very self-centered. They can't see kind of outside their bubble, and which is fine. That's where they're supposed to be to grow up. So yeah, that's developmental. Like a 2-year-old is supposed to throw those temper tantrums because they don't know what they're doing. So those things are supposed to happen.
Right.
So
right.
Yeah, that's how I'd answer that question.
Thank you. I could think of someone who I knew. I mean, I guess you could say he's actually since passed away, but at the end we were kind of at odds with each other and kind of didn't get along. And I know more than one person called him a narcissist, and I'm like, I don't know though if I would even. I'm not going to get into the details, and some people probably know who I'm referring to, but he probably had some of the traits, but I don't truly believe he fit all of them. And he did have some empathy or some care about other people, because I used to, even though he had those, conceited or in charge or what's the word, that gaslighting thing. He had some of those, but then I saw this side of him where he really cared about other people and he really did try to help or did do this or that. A pretty well-rounded guy. I don't think I'd call him a narcissist, but I know there's people who disagree with me on that. So I guess that leads me to ask you, what is a narcissist? Do you truly have to fit all, let's say it's 7 criteria? Do you have to fit all 7 to be a narcissist, or not necessarily?
Well, not necessarily. And also, again, the DSM, it's kind of how you read it, and a lawyer can debate both sides of it. Yeah. And again, people can go through life being having more narcissistic traits at some point than others. Okay. So, if you're a narcissist, I say you have to act that way consistently. Yeah. Like all the time. You can't see anything else of that. And sometimes, unfortunately, when you're in the beginning stages of divorce, that is a mental health crisis. It is one of the worst things that people can go through, and it takes over your body, mentally and physically. So sometimes, during those times, you can have more narcissistic traits because you feel entitled to things. You feel you were the right one to file, or you feel jaded.
But you could be right.
You could be right.
I mean, I understand.
Yes.
Not to go off topic, but you could be.
You could be 100% right.
Yeah.
But again, taking it too far is where you need to kind of reel it back in.
Right.
When it comes down to the kids, you got to put, you have to love your children more than you hate your spouse.
Yes, that's the way to put it. Yes. Yep. I hope someone writes that as a comment, because that's true. Like
it's a book. It's a book. I didn't write the book, but it's a really good book.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. That's good. I know. So, I mean, how many narcissists do you think are really walking amongst us in the world? I mean, is it, because I feel like everybody just uses that word. I mean, I'm trying to think if I can even think of someone who is one, who's a true narcissist, like truly. Like I think the number is small, unless you guys think it's big. I don't know. What do you
us people walking amongst the world, lay people on the street, just ignore the term just because that, like Katie said, I believe, and I'm not talking from a clinical perspective, but everybody calls everybody a narcissist, not knowing what the definition and the assessments that have to go involved, and really saying it's clinically has a clinical narcissist, personality.
It's interesting.
It's overused. It's just lay people throw it around, and it's not right.
But I think that's because, not to interject, but because they feel like, but Tanya, he's just so conceited. Like, he is a narcissist. I'm like, but is that all he is conceited?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? It's
parental-
just, you just, you see the level of, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying, frustration, or you see,
somebody who was
you know.
who was denying a child access to another targeted parent
yeah,
may have real other clinical definitions, but
yeah,
clinical,
Mm.
you know, characteristics of being a narcissist.
yeah,
They believe that rules don't apply to them,
right,
and they're above the laws and the court orders, and not
Mhm.
following the court orders.
right,
That is alienating. The
Right.
only way we can find out is to force the courts and family court reform to do an assessment whether that
Right.
parental alienation is happening, and
Right.
we've created an awareness possible where the professionals can do the proper assessments to determine if that's possible.
right,
Other than that arena or
right.
therapy, you know, walking down the street, somebody,
Yeah.
a narcissist term means nothing from my perspective.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. And then, and just in wrapping up, I just a couple of things. How can people find you again for Prestige Wellness? And
PrestigeWellnessRI.com, my website, PrestigeWellnessRI@gmail.com. You can email if you have any questions about reunification, co-parenting, parental alienation. We offer at our practice co-parenting consulting, reunification therapy, supervised visitation, communication monitoring, pretty much the whole gamut. So if you're in need of anything, please let me know. If you have any, we also writing reports to provide evidence supporting or not supporting parental alienation is happening. And if you have any questions on any of those resources or services, you can email prestigewellnessri@gmail.com.
Katie, I have a question.
Awesome.
In your practice, and when you do get into reunification therapy with a parent and child, do you do any kind of assessment, real documented assessment that parental alienation exists? Do you have an assessment process? Do you have, you know, a Q&A that you ask where you document all the data, and then you can present that data to the attorney, have an actual assessment that P&A, that parental alienation may be existing?
Yes. I write, it depends on what the lawyer or the guardian ad litem asks me to write. I have to follow kind of their discretion or the client's discretion. So I have a couple of clients right now that I'm writing reports, only reports. I don't really meet with the client. We do one intake together, and then they just provide me evidence that I read and write a report supporting or negating parental alienation exists. If I'm doing reunification therapy, it's more of a, again, it's very fact-based. I don't provide an opinion. It's,
Yep.
you know, mom lied about missing school and the child said field day. That's not an opinion. That's what I heard, and that's fact. Another aspect of reunification therapy here is we always have our office manager present because we need another set of eyes and ears. She's not sitting in on the session with us, but she is in the room in case anything goes down, because sometimes these cases are not easy and things get heightened very quickly. So there's always another set of eyes and ears here as well. But yes, if we need a report, I can write a report. It's, again, based on what lawyers, guardians, or the client specifically asked me to write.
Do you need a
Thank
court
you.
order to do an assessment? Does the court have to provide an order and say, here's the symptom display of the child, and here's what one parent is accusing, the other parent is accusing? Okay, you can do an assessment for parental alienation.
No, clients sometimes come to me and they're not even in court. And they just, again, provide me with
that's
evidence,
good.
and then I write the report. And that's then their choice to go back to court because the evidence was there supporting parental alienation, or sometimes it's not there, but I still write the report, and maybe they don't take it back to court. But you do not have to have a court order. Some people do co-parenting consulting on their own because they just can't get it together, and it's not court ordered. They're not even in court.
Yeah,
It's just helpful.
Let's go back to, say the two parents are in court, and one parent has false accusations and using those accusations to keep the child from the other parent.
No, they can come to me without a court order.
yes, they can.
To write a
But
report.
to do the assessment, and one parent doesn't agree with any kind of course, one parent who's accusing the other parent of false, accusations of something, and the other parent is saying, no, that's alienation. Now you need some kind of assessment. Is the accusation true, or is the other parent using the false accusation as a means to alienate the child from the other parent?
That parent can come to me without a court order. I don't necessarily have to see the child or the other parent to read guardian ad litem's reports, therapist reports, school reports. I'm just reading the documentation and then writing a report on that. So I don't even need to meet the other parent. And again, my report is just based on what I'm reading. So that could be biased because if you're being alienated, you're going to support me with evidence that's going to prove it. When the other parent might have evidence negating it, but if you're my client and you're asking me to read this evidence, I'm writing a report based on the evidence provided. So I don't even really meet with the people one-on-one for very long. It's very short, just to do the intake and receive all the documentation.
All right. Thank you. And as you guys, and just in wrapping up, as you guys are talking, it just made me think of a couple things. Number one, there's always two sides to every story.
Yes.
Whether you're talking this topic or any topic in life of anything that went wrong, or I feel like there's always two sides to a story. So you can hear one side and be like, oh my God, I can't believe he did that, or I can't believe she did that. But then when you go talk to the other person, they have their version, and then, and sometimes I look at it this way too. Sometimes both sides actually have a good argument. You know what I mean? Like both sides actually have something bad to say about the other person, and then that's why their behavior was the way it was. And that's why they did maybe react that way, or did, take that action that wasn't the best action to take, but they did because of, so sometimes both people do have a decent side of the story, or sometimes they don't, but there's always two sides. And I also just wanted to say that I know I mentioned I've, met people along the way that have gone through these situations. I always called it one parent, pinning the kid against the other parent or whatever, but, or, I didn't use the word alienation, but then you see families that can just do it. They can just get divorced and things are great. And it's like, we didn't even have to go to court. We just divided everything equally, Tanya. And it was legit. I've seen this with my own eyes where the next thing you know, they had a cookout together, and they're still there for the kid. They try to get along just for the sake of the kid, or they do get along. And some have even been remarried or been in a new relationship, and even that new person has gotten along with the ex. And now you have two women that are getting to be friendly. I've actually seen this one case that stands out. I won't say any names.
That's the
they've actually been, they've actually were friends. The two women were friends. Went for walks together, whatever. She's like, I'm all done with him. I don't want him back. I don't care if she has him. And they actually go walking and everything. It's like, but that's the other extreme. Yes, it's amazing. It is out there. It is. That's a local story. I said this. It is.
And it can get there, and that's where co-parenting people come in and they say, "No, I have it the worst." No, I've always seen worse. Yeah. And in co-parenting therapy is a lot different, just quickly, than regular therapy. Yeah. I am very solution focused. I am very blunt. I tell the co-parents what they're doing right and what they're doing wrong, because the sessions aren't together. So because then I play referee and no one wants. No, I don't have time for that.
Oh, so, I know, that probably is like that. Yeah. Oh, so they are separate.
They're separate because what if I said, well, your ex is doing this, and the other person's like, see, I told you so. Right. I don't have time for that. So again, in communication, if I say you can't say this to your co-parent, the other person's going to react negatively, then hopefully that changes. So it can start off bad and get really good, Yeah. So it just takes a minute.
Yeah, I've heard those stories.
Takes a minute.
I've heard those stories too, like where hey, it was tough in the beginning, but now, where they're all having a holiday together. Like they're all, which, I mean, one time I was involved in that too. I mean, I wasn't married to the guy, but where the ex was going to be there, and we were fine. It was nothing. It was, I gotta say, it went well. It wasn't like, what do I have to not like her for? That was like 15 years ago, or whatever, many years ago, So I was okay with it. But I mean, I'm just saying, but not everyone is. And sometimes things are said, or someone says a dig or a remark, or you know how it is. But I'm just saying, But no, it's interesting. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
I do appreciate your time. Thank you so much. And so thanks guys for tuning in. Feel free to like and share. Don't forget, check out this great place, 535 Atwood Ave, right in Cranston, Prestige Wellness, for co-parenting and more. Definitely check it out. We will do our raffle. I'll tell you where I'll be next week. So this is for Fu Ming. There are 2 locations for Fu Ming, but this happens to be the West Warwick one. So I usually show to the viewer the actual winner because this way I usually don't mind me. They can see my sloppy handwriting. Christine won. Okay, Christine Scavola, you won. I'm just gonna flip the camera. All right, and I'll also show you. I'll also show you the gift card. So Christine Scavola Preston, and you won Fu Ming, $50 to Fu Ming. Call me to claim that. My phone number's on the page. And I'll also let you know where I'm going to be next week. Sorry, this thing is, it's not me. Hold on. The screen's not turning. Wait a minute. Okay. All right, sorry. And so next week I'll be in Cranston, right near the ACI, meeting with the union president of the Department of Corrections, Richard Ferruccio, regarding the whole new administration changes over at Department of Corrections. Tell your friends, like and share. I don't know if anybody's familiar with Department of Corrections. I'm sure some of you are. But I will have Richard Ferruccio on next week in regards to Wayne Salisbury and how that's just been causing problems, or allegedly causing problems, ever since within the Department of Corrections. So we'll hear about that next week. No time frame on that yet, but just stay tuned to the page. All right, guys, thanks. Like and share.
Thank you.